Hello and welcome to the show. This is Do All the Things. On today's episode, something a little more mellow. Don't know what to call it, but I've been asked to clean and inspect this in particular computer. A buddy bought it used from another buddy or a cousin or family, and he sent me some sus screenshots of its specifications that made me think, yeah, you better let me check that thing out before you start going and using on it there, bud. It might need some adjustment. So stay tuned. So I got a buddy, a bit of a compulsive gamer to the point where it's hard to work on his system when it needs servicing. It actually needs servicing right now because he can't part with it long enough for me to get the work done to it. But an opportunity arose where he was able to purchase another computer, a used one from a cousin, for $500 Canadian, which turned out to be a really good deal when you see the specs. One of the first screenshots, we have the drives. So we have a Samsung SSD down here that's 500 gigabytes, but this one's only 231 on the C. It's like, why is the smaller one the C drive? Why wouldn't they make one of the newer, faster ones this one? So yeah, some people, they might run out of room and upgrade, and then they'll go and slap in another one and keep installing games on it, leave their Windows installed on the smaller original C drive because, well, Windows doesn't need that much speed, so gonna be okay. And a lot of people don't know how to do the migrations properly. Now we notice this person disliked their space because they have a pair of 2 terabyte Western Digital blue SSDs. Or actually no, that says blue HDD. Okay, which is funny because if I look at the computer, that looks like a black. I do believe these specs were sent to him before he bought the system, before Buddy formatted, so who knows if this is actually what's in here. I kind of figured since, you know, we're doing things over here, we're starting over, we might want to put something a little better in the C drive. Especially, I know his system that he has now, I built from him, he has a 500 gig NVMe C drive, which we might want to put into here. Now we check out the next screenshot, it's like, oh, it's a 3700X, okay, that's a bit old. Apparently this computer's about 4 years old. Smells like they might have been a smoker too. Yeah, you got the yellow, but a 3700X, that's off to a strong start. You could still have a decent gaming rig with a 3700X. So, okay, what else do we have? An NVIDIA RTX 2080 Super. Really? Right now, he's got a 1070 Ti with, I do believe, either a 1600X or a 2600X. I don't remember which one we gave him. And it's a B350 Strix board. So already this is a considerable upgrade, going from 1000 to 3000, going from a 1000 series or a 1070 Ti to a 2080 Super. Considering this guy still runs a 1080p monitor, damn, he might actually be able to pull off a bit of RT with this thing. Next up, the motherboard. Oh, a ROG Strix X570E Gaming. Huh, an X570E. That's theoretically gonna outrank the X570F, which is gonna be a lot of board. Okay, already 3700X, 2080 Super, and an X570E Strix. Yeah, he's freaking laughing to the bank for $500. I bought not too long ago, $150 for a 3700X. If we hop quick and dirty onto the Bay of Ease here, 2080 Super, $300, $250, $200, anywhere from $200 to $300. Yeah, Bud did good. Strix X570. Bids as low as $40, $80, $80, $80. Okay, we got bids going for $80. Wait, that's for parts. That's for parts. That's for parts. And this one says read, which means that's probably for parts too. Maybe looking around here, $200-$300 also. Here's one, $154. There's actually not a whole heck of a lot of them here, but already, just the CPU and motherboard's a huge majority of his value. Now, if we continue on, we're gonna find the RAM information, and this is where it gets sus. 1066 at 1550-1536. That's interesting to me because that suggests 2133 RAM is in here, 2166. Whatever double 1066 is. Yeah, 2133. That is not a match. Either this system has cheap RAM, or this is why it stood out as sus. They have a 3700X. They have a relatively high-end board. they have a pretty decent upper tier GPU of the time, but then they'd put cheap RAM in it? No, that kind of screams a situation where they put probably good RAM into it and didn't set it up correctly. And that's one of the reasons why I was telling Buddy, like, yeah. Now, to be fair, his system has like a 3200 megahertz Intel RAM in it. So I don't know that we have it really overclocked either. Maybe it's a similar situation. He was building to a price point then, so we gave him lesser end RAM to begin with. B350, 1600. Yeah, it's a different class of system. Now, if we go and look in the actual system, we're going to see right off the bat, hilarity starts to ensue. Just from this one shot alone, can you spot what's wrong? Those are not the correct RAM slots. It's supposed to be 2 and 4, not 1 and 3. Let's take a look at the RAM. Yeah, F4 3216. Sure enough, exactly what I predicted. It actually has 3200 speed RAM, but it was not configured correctly. Now it's funny because if we take a closer look, it's 16, 18, 1838 Intel XMP Ripjaws. Friends don't let friends buy Ripjaws. So we have a RAM set here that quite possibly is going to be Intel spec, not AMD spec. And even though they might be the same, it has to do with what they program onto the chip telling the computer what it can run at. There's a good chance if we set this to 3200, if we turn on Expo or whatever the hell they called it back then, DOHCP, it's not going to work at 3200, especially at 16, 18, 1838. This is some low grade RAM. And that's what I find with Ripjaws. Like often Ripjaws is the branding they put on their lower end RAM. We're gonna put it back into this slot just for lulz. Also, we got the PCIe done wrong. They did that thing where they took one cable and just used the split. Like, okay, yeah, it works, but it's not correct form, especially not when you're gonna get more cables. You're supposed to use the second cable, bud. You're supposed to. Now they have an 8-pin and they're not using the additional 4-pin. That's okay. When Buddy gave him the system, that he gave him an additional SSD, exampled right here, and he's just like, oh, just stick it in there, bud, it'll work. Okay, yeah, it will. And it's not like he didn't have the sled. He gave him the sled, yeah, it just doesn't fit with this sled. What do you mean it doesn't fit? The screw holes are right there, bud, on the bottom. Oh, just this little nubbin's in the way, eh? Oh, we'd have to remove that. Big deal. I'm pretty sure if we just pop this around like that, it's gonna fit now. Funny thing is, this is only a 250. This is almost kind of pointless to just, you know, you have a bunch of 2 terabytes, you just kind of chuck a random 250 in there. What are you gonna do with that? Right, well, let's take a deeper look into this thing. Whatever this case is, it does not have captive screws. You have some top panel here. That must be an exhaust. It doesn't have a, ouch. It has a freaking sharp on it, bud. It just bit me. Yeah, parts where it sticks through the perforations. This thing's gonna draw blood. It already has. We do have a nice gaping area. Ugh, don't go rubbing your blood all over it now, bud. Nice gaping area for freaking top fans and or radiators. And yeah, there's a reasonable amount of thickness here. We could put a sizable radiator on this thing. Let's look in the back. Corsair power supply, okay, decent. Rat's nest. Gotta ask Buddy where the accessories are. Are you one of those people who just chucks out your spare cables? You need another PCI Express cable. I'm not gonna allow that to be like that. Okay, that's not, yeah, what is this? That's a feature even. That's not a flaw. They just kind of make these quick eject. Terror WD blue. Okay, cool. 3D NAND. Samsung 850 Pro 512. That's cool. That must be, oh, okay, that's this guy we're seeing. That's the reason why it's not the C drive, because it's just a normal. I guess 512 is a little bit more interesting than a 256 and a 250 Evo. Wait, I don't see a 250 on there. Is this thing not M2 loaded? 321, that's gonna be like a 250. Oh boy. A 2 terabyte blue, okay. A 500 gig, oh boy. And a WD black, but it says a blue. I'm guessing that got swapped, bud. That's the only way that makes sense. And it has a broken nubbin right here. You mean to tell me this thing doesn't even have an M2? A person built a system like this and did not put an M2 in it? That's freaking hilarious, bud. EVGA card. This is nice. And it actually looks pretty clean. Like he did not buy this with the rest of the system. Like it has nowhere near the same amount of fouling built up on it as do the case fans here. Okay, I guess we gotta be busting down all these heat sinks right here, bud. Yeah. There's no M2 C drive. Damn. I don't know. Maybe it's just the elitist in me talking, but the person who spec'd out and built this system did not know what they were doing. It's as simple as that. You don't buy a frickin' Strix X670E and a 2080 Super and not put an M2 on it. You know what I mean? Buy a cheaper motherboard. Put a better SSD. Get the Strix F for frick's sakes. Get a used Strix X470. It doesn't even make sense. But I guess it is what it is, and now I have to fix it. But it puts me into a predicament where I gotta start contacting this guy to make arrangements, figure out what the frick it is we're gonna do. I gotta tear this thing down for cleaning. That's fine. But I'm actually curious about something. That RAM. Okay, we're in our familiar menu here. Now if we go to quick mode, right quick, DOHCP profile 1. Okay, yeah, that's a thing that exists. Now we're probably gonna have to save and exit, get that going. Hold on, what else is done wrong in here? I wonder how old the BIOS is in here. Where's the SoC voltage? SO3 voltage, 1.025. Okay, cause yeah, was it the 3000s? They didn't like being as high as 1.1. So that's okay. It has 2 LAN controllers, that's cool. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi built on, that's cool. Okay, CSM was disabled, that's good. Okay, I'm not seeing anything about resized bar. I guess that wasn't a thing in the 2000 series. I wonder if CSM is just disabled by default on this particular situation. Because I don't understand how someone could, you know, set that correctly, but not get... But then again, they probably didn't use the XMP profile because it's not compatible. So save changes, reset. My good old quick and dirty here. We do test 6 and 8 right quick. Oh, there we go. Test 8. Fail, 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 fail. Because this RAM's not compatible with this computer. Not at those speeds. Now, granted, if I wanted to get real fancy and start doing the Ryzen RAM calculation situations like I've done in previous videos, I probably could. Wow, it's going bad. I probably could dial it into something that would do 3200-ish. But this is clearly fail. I gotta figure out what to do here. Until I get the parts that I need to complete this thing, it's almost no point working on it more today. Alright, it's been some time later, and I do believe we have a plan now. So, Buddy came over, I had him bring his other system over so that we could maybe swap some parts and actually pull some parts. Turns out he is also booting off a 250 gig SSD. It is an NVMe, however. He does have a 500 gig NVMe, but we kind of decided, you know what, we're gonna raise the bar here. So one of the first things we did, we actually ordered some fresh parts. We have a 2 terabyte Western Digital SN850X that's gonna be going in there on his boot drive. You can see it on this thing. I already have the Windows for it migrated over. It's ready to go. Another decision that was made is this case actually has 2 5.25 bays, which was convenient. We've leveraged that because Buddy actually has quite a bit of spin drives left over. This system came with a 2 terabyte. He has like several in his he has like 4 spin drives in his existing system, and we decided, you know, it's time to semi-retire those. They're storing data, but it's not stuff you need all the time. Between his 2 terabyte C drive and we have a 2 terabyte SSD that it came with, he has enough onboard storage to fit his needs. Everything else, it could be sidelined. So he's getting not 1, but 2 5.25 hot swap bays. These are the bog standard StarTech dealies that I've used with good results on many times. They have blue blinkers. They're kind of redundant. That doesn't get hooked up. More likely chopped off even. Swapped out from his existing system, we have his RAM. G-Skill Trident Z F4 3200 C16D-16 GT ZSK. This is actually Intel RAM also. So I have it on good authority. It's not gonna do 3200 proper. I played with this RAM before, it was in my inventory. I sold it to him on the cheap when he needed a computer years ago. So that's why he has it. And the funny thing is, it's like the same stuff that came in the new system. Like literally, just it looks different. And because this looks cooler, we're gonna stick with that. So he's gonna be limited down to, I don't know, maybe even 2400, 2600. He's not gonna have the fastest RAM, but it's still, realistically, he's not gonna know the difference. Us enthusiasts, we put that high-speed RAM in there to match things up just because that's what we do. In practice, it's not as important. The only reason why I fuss about high-speed RAM is because a lot of people make the mistake, oh, they get 32 gigs of mediocre RAM instead of 60 gigs of high-speed RAM. No, but if you're spending the money, just get 60 gigs of high-speed RAM. That's a moot point now. AM4, still supported on its way out. 7000, AM5, DDR5, they don't even really make 16 gig sets anymore, so doesn't matter. He's got cooler RAM. The other thing we swapped out is his existing cooler. For years, since this guy's previous AM3 Plus system, he's had this nice Corsair tower cooler, which, you know, is kind of roughly like a nice, what do you call it, a Hyper 212? This might predate the Hyper 212 actually. But either way, we're gonna stick his nice tower cooler in there. It's still compatible. We're not putting the stock cooler is going on to his old processor, going into his old system. It's gonna get sold. And for reference, his existing system, found out, it's a 2600, not a 2600X, just a 2600. So this is gonna be a considerable upgrade for him. That said, because of how filthy and grungy this system was, we exist in a reality in which in order to clean it, I had to strip it down to the bare metal. Look at that little pupper right there. It's funny how light a case is when it's all stripped down. So yeah, I guess now I have to put this back together. All the freaking plastics, hopefully I can remember what correct order to do this. Oh yeah, it's interesting, this case came apart rather well. A lot of parts just snapping on and off. Was this the front? I can't remember now, it all looks the same. Tried to clean this all up as best I can. A lot of vacuuming. Oh, I forgot to put in the crystals. For the grungy bits, I used this, you know, mild TSP solution. Even the wiring harness for the front panel came apart. That's good. And much to my chagrin, it doesn't have ugly blue LEDs. It's got white, actually. If it was my case, I'd be changing them to red. Helps if I get it in the right way. I just gotta kind of remember what all screws go where. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure this goes in. Oh, not from this way, but it goes in before we put that front panel into place. It's funny, these thumb screws for this part, almost like it's supposed to be easy to take in and out. We should probably make sure these things can actually get installed. You know what? This is gonna be tricky. Like, they only have these situations here for the quick release. That's not gonna be good enough for hot swap bays. Hell no. And now it's jammed in there. Holy frick butt. Right, so pulling this thing back out, we have a mechanism here in which they just kind of poke through the holes. These things have like soft mounts, so they don't work well with that kind of situation. We do have holes here, so if we could just figure out what geometry intends, I think it has to go in the opposite of the way I had it. And we have these weird push points here. This thing's got to get screwed down, so I'm thinking we're going to be, you know, there are screw holes. So I believe part of the gag here is we're going to be removing these pieces. They're often optional in cases like this. We just have to find ourselves forcing our way past those, like something. Something here's choking this guy down. Okay, there's a hole, and there's 4 holes. Okay, the bay doth indeed comes with matching screws. So I guess we'll put the one here. That should be okay. There's a little pip right there that indexes with the opposing hole that's going here. Okay, so we have a situation where he opens upwards. He's not going to be able to just leave these open, because that's the thing, you open it, you can slide your drive in and out, then close it again. Nothing's going to line up trying to put it this way. You maybe would want to be able to do one of these, right? It doesn't look like he's going to have the option to do that. He's going to have to, like, you know, two-fist it. Now, I've tried to remove those LEDs before, but they're glued in there, so they'll just straight up break if you try. So the question is, assuming he's not going to be using these drive lights, it'd be nice if StarTech thought to put the break out. You know, they could make one of these adapters here that has the LED output on it. I might as well just leave it. We might as well go ahead and get the second one put in there, right? So now the several dollar question is, can this go through this hole? Because it was suggesting that it might have been somewhat a tight fit. Oh boy. Like, these things have a bit more of a flare on them. No. Oh boy, we have a chicken egg. It's like we have to put these things in from the front in order to get these to clear. In order to get these mounted, we have to have this off. Is that what you're saying? Oh, it's so close, bud. It's so close. Hopefully it can't be seen, but I almost feel like if I just, maybe. Come on, buds. I just need you to slip over there just a little bit, buds. It's not happening. We got ourselves a full-fledged pickle here, bud. I think I know another solution. Okay, so why would they make it rear accessible? They probably made it so that it can accommodate anything, right? Except you need full support for these drive bays. You can't just be like mounting them 2 little pegs. Like, they fit in front-wise. They fit in front-wise well enough, they actually kind of rack sit right on the lips that they can't pass through. So they have to go in from the front. Well, buds, here we go waffling in the lethal breeze. It is what it is. So if I eyeballed this correctly, I should now have a couple screw access holes, you know, nicely deburred, right? These are smooth as frig, we're not cutting ourselves. They don't look like completely ugly. And at the end of the day, they're just gonna get covered up underneath this thing, right? So, okay, this time for sure, bud. I didn't think it would take this long to slap a couple hot swap bays into here. All right, we good? We good? We're good. And of course, like, you know, with a shorter screwdriver, we can pretty much get these screws in, right? Finally. I can't believe how long it took me just to get those bays installed. Except we do need a bit of play on this to get this panel back on. Hopefully everything else is pretty straightforward. Like, I gotta put these grommets du fromage back into place. They got actual soap and water treatment. I feel it might not be totally uncalled for to start getting the motherboard ready. We can slap it in at any time. Now, what's mounting an SSD on this thing like? We don't have the original box, so, you know, if that doesn't support it properly, which it's not, and, well, that, oh no! The SSD standoffs would be in the original box. And Buddy never mounted them? And Buddy chucked out his original box. We already asked about the Wi-Fi antenna. That's one of the annoying things about this build, is that it's just missing. It's missing pieces. To be fair, it's like, do we even need them? Because like if I put the heatsink on, it's gonna hold this down into the position it needs to be held down into. We can get away with it. I didn't even notice that, man. Certain things you kind of take for granted, right? You're used to all these ducks being in a row. He also has an SSD that's gonna come in here, so we don't have it now. Keep hitting roadblocks, bud. This project is certainly getting interesting. I'm gonna stick this spacer here, make up for the one that's missing. And then, you know what? Once we put this heatsink into place, it's gonna hold it down. So for all intents and purposes, that should work just fine now. Funny part about this heatsink is it uses the old school, like, you know, kind of slip it on there method. And it's actually meant to go, like, it's not gonna go this way. It pretty much has to go up and down. And then one controversy what we had was, you might not clear the RAM. Let's slap this in here, see how it clears. Once we put this fan into place here, oh, it might just, no, oh, yeah, it does. It does. Will it clear the video card? Yes. And it's not gonna completely suck all the air off the video card. Actually, what I used to do with this thing is I put it in pull mode. I had it at the top here, pulling hot air out. Some say that's the wrong way of doing it, but worked for years. It would be more ergonomic, because it would pull less focused air, like you would have general fresh air coming in from the front, and then it would just kind of pull from that. They say it's wrong because it can pull from the sides and not completely through. You could have a little bit of a short circuit. One problem with this guy is it has these rubber bumpers here that it's like, they've gotten a bit stiff over the years, and they kind of only go in once. I feel like I'm gonna wreck them if I try to pull them out. Either way, let's see about schmooing this into place. The only thing about this is it doesn't have the flattest surface. You got a lot of the goo stuck up in those ridges. Oh yeah, frickin' old school, bud. And it's cool because the little bend on this perfectly clears this heatsink. Almost like it was meant to be. I managed to get the fan off, so ooh, I can get at it from this angle now. Of course, you can't schmoo stuff without getting schmoo on yourself. Do a little pull. Oh boy, I worry a little bit. These are a little bit old. Come on, there we go. Fan's on. And of course, I'm covered in schmoo. Don't even know where it comes from. No idea, bud. Ooh, this just flaps on there, right? Right, yeah, flaps on there. Now this should kinda just maybe do one of these. Yes, that slaps in like that. And then I believe we use these thumb screws back here. Yeah, okay, this pupper is pretty much back together case-wise now. I'm gonna go ahead and get the motherboard mounted back in now. Oh, one of the holes is hiding, but there's no screw hole there. They have like a little special standoff with a finger that indexes it, so that's convenient. We don't have to take our heatsink back off, though we would in any other case. So yeah, I'm guessing the power supply goes right in about here. It's funny because they have this locking mechanism for it. And then it's over top of these wires. Which way should these wires go? It looks like they could go around back with appropriate slack, but it doesn't seem cooperative. And if I recall correctly, it's a pair of these thumb screw dealers that go in here to hold this guy down. Kinda don't like that coming out like that. I might figure out how to sort it better as I do the cable management, which I guess I'm gonna do now. Well, hold on, there's one more thing. There's this whole drive cage arrangement here for the SSDs, mounting all the SSDs. They kind of piggyback onto each other. Just kind of stack up. That's funny because I guess they have room to breathe, but there's not a lot of wind in that section of the case. And they're kind of awkward to snap together, but I guess it works. Oh, there are screw holes for them too. They weren't snapped together properly when I got the computer. Probably a direct push down is nice. Oh, okay, where's this pupper mount again? Oh, I see now. So this little snapper here has to go on the same side as these guys. Now this guy has literally 4 SSDs. And so these guys kind of just like that. And it's funny because they're spring loaded at the back, eh? There is a screw. These plastic bits are worn out. Well, this one is. And like, I guess that works. Don't necessarily have spare screws to give them. Really jumping the toolless shark with this case a little bit. This thing just kind of, there we go. Slaps in there like that. And we can remove the last bay piece if we wanted to, even though these things aren't easy to disconnect. Okay, so yeah, cable management and making final choices on how to go together. How to go together. So other than the fact that we're missing a PCI Express cable that is on order, but it's coming from China, so I don't know when it's gonna get here. Yeah, tracking for the cable doesn't show it being in country yet. The fact that I need to order some standoffs. I have no spare standoffs. So this is the cable management we're doing, which is a little haywire because of how much SATA he has. 4 2.5 SSDs, 2 swap bays, and there's 2 front like sled bays, which, to be honest, I wasn't sure if I was gonna hook up because I don't think he's gonna use them. Might pull them out, I might ask him and then pull them out. But I think this is the cable management. So, you know, I did good with the built-in, the motherboard power runs. They're secured really well back there. And then all the front panel connections. I got this nice little pipe going up back here. Now I got a little bit loose with the SATA. So we have SATA power here. There is some securement points here. And we have it distributed because we only have the 2 SATA cables that have 4 connections on them. So each SATA cable is connected to 1 hot swap, 2 SSDs, and then via right here, these extension cables, the 2 SATA sleds that are in the case. That should distribute the load. I try to avoid putting hot swap bays of this nature 2 on the same cable run if I can, because I have had it before where a particularly thirsty drive, when you go to mount it for the first time, that inrush current will cause other drives in the line to shut down. And that could often happen between 2 drives here. So it's good to put them on separate lines if you can. Got these 4 bushel of SATA cables here. I gotta take 2 of his 250 SATAs, and I'm going to internally in Windows, not in hardware, RAID 1 them. So just to say he has an automatic backup, and I'll tell him that. I'll be like, okay, these 2 drives here, they're redundant. They're an auto backup. So maybe if you're doing something more important, like he does recording. You can see him doing his recording projects on there. And then this is just the PCI Express. Kind of, you know, maybe we could, but yeah, it's gonna be fine. Let's see what happens when we shut her up. I almost feel like there's just not enough air for those SSDs. That leverages on like that, and then it thumb screws on. And then the front looks like this. Reasonably cavernous, like a modern computer should be, because those 5 1/4 are on the back side, along with the power supply. These are the SATA sleds I'm talking about. You know, you have what's kind of like hot swap here. It's kind of like having SATA hot swap. I almost told him straight up, but you already have 2 SATA hot swaps in here. If you don't mind pulling off the freaking side panel whenever you want to swap out a drive, boom, there you are. Gonna have a lot of airflow coming in here. I'm gonna have to do thermal tuning on this system. Airflow out the back. And then this thing's just gonna jet out the top, you know. Kind of wish you had some exhaust here, but the default exhaust is there. So, not sure what else to tell you. This is gonna be a video in and of itself. So we're gonna close this one up for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, stay tuned, because sometimes I like to build on computers. And people ask me, hey, can you build a computer for me? Sometimes. It's not super common, but sometimes. Very likely everything else I do with this computer's off camera, because that's just all the boring crap. Maybe I should make a thermal tuning video. I don't know. I always do that off camera. Sometimes like I'm pressed with my work and I'm like, oh, I should have filmed that, but I didn't film it because I thought it would be boring. Babble, babble, it's frickin' dinner time, bud.